Happy weekend, all my podcast peeps. This is Kevin. You are listening to episode number 21 of the weekend edition of the PT Guru podcast. Today, we're going to talk about why it's so important to be a lifelong learner. My name is Kevin Radzik. I've been involved in the field of calibration, measurement, and metrology for over 20 years. On the PT Guru podcast, we discuss these topics and more, like quality and equipment and how all this impacts your life. My intent here is to educate and inform, but most of all is to get you to think for yourself and not just blindly listen to the system. So I welcome you to the PT Guru podcast. All right, so thanks for joining me this weekend. Spend a few minutes with me. I really appreciate it. Those of you watching on YouTube or Facebook, one of those two, thanks for stopping by. We do a podcast all week, and this is kind of the weekend edition of it. Weekend edition we do up here on Facebook and YouTube and other video platforms. While during the week, it's just kind of a normal podcast. You can get it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify. You can ask Alexa, hey, Alexa, play the PT Guru podcast. She'll do so for you. So lots of cool places to catch it, and hope you tune in. If you're new to things, want to know what we're about here, well, that's what we kind of like to intro you to at the beginning here and talk about what we talked about during the week. So if something catches your fancy, you can go hop over to one of those platforms and check it out. So Monday, we talked about SI prefixes and engineering notation, how all that stuff works. I know it causes some people confusion, causes some of the best of us a bit of confusion when we're trying to go between nano and pico and then swap it over to the other side and go to kilo and mega and those kind of things. So lots of cool stuff in there. Tuesday, kind of like to try to relate calibration metrology in real life, and we'll call that one Kitchen Metrology 2. A sequel to the first. And there we talked about volumetric measures, i.e. measuring cups and spoons and where all that stuff kind of came from. It's kind of interesting stuff. Wednesday, we took our equipment day. We talked about calibration adjustments, what they mean, how some of them are done, and what you really need to be kind of on the lookout for that you might not be on the lookout for. So you may want to check that one out. And then Quality Toolkit Thursday, not really a quality tool, but something that's essential in getting other quality things really down and getting them right. And that's brainstorming. And so I just offer up a few suggestions, a few things that I like to do when it comes to actually doing some brainstorming. And especially when you go and try to bring it to a group of folks, things you can do there to really make it, work a little bit better. And then on Friday, we talked about why there's no absolutes in calibration. Measurement uncertainty is one thing, but then there's some other stuff. And in all honesty, there's probably a lot more gray in there than what you ever realize. So some fun stuff there. Let's get to our weekend content. Weekend, we like to kind of approach things from kind of higher level topics. And this is kind of one that, hits me. It's near and dear to my heart. But it's not near and dear to everybody's heart, unfortunately. And I wish it really was, because it should be. Just saying. But, I've got a number of friends who just seem to have this same little mantra going that I wasn't trained for that, or I didn't go to college for that, or even I just don't know about that. And me being me, I'm always asking myself, why? Why don't you do something? It's such a cop-out on life, on circumstances, on everything. I guess it's like, I don't know that, so I'm not responsible for it. And I get it. Hey, I don't know everything either, but if I want to figure something out, or something is even slightly interesting or important to me, guess what? I'm going to figure it out. That's me. We live in this world today of Google and YouTube, and there are very few things you can't learn with an internet search today. If you're willing to put in the effort, and that's what it comes down to, putting in that effort. And I suppose it's really easy to say, I don't know that, and expect someone else to deal. I guess that way it's their problem and not yours. And if the focus of your life is to provide the minimum effort possible in all things, might be the right path for you. I'm not wired that way. I think you all know that. Anybody who's been listening to me for any period of time, I grew up in an age where I had 4 channels of television from an antenna because cable wasn't even a thing in rural America where I grew up. I mean, I was raised on PBS. So I grew up watching cooking shows and nature shows. And of course, my personal favorite were the science shows. I didn't know it then, but I was being set up. My way of thinking was being shaped since childhood to be this lifelong learner. I could watch a science show about something I didn't care about, like exobiology, marine sociology, to make something up. And next thing you know, I'm like, really? Seriously? Seahorses do that? And just like, wow. And I think we all do that to a certain degree. We all have those aha moments. It's just some of us seek them out and some of us don't. We come across this little piece of information that triggers something in our brains, and all of a sudden it's the most interesting little factoid we've ever heard. It fires some level of neurons, not only makes us think, but it also gives us that momentary endorphin rush thing of, wow, did I just enjoy that? Like when you're trying to figure something out and all of a sudden you get it and bam, there it is. And your brain says, good job. Here's your reward. Personally, I've sought out these experiences over and over in my life. It's what makes me tick. I love learning. I love when people ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, because to me, this is an opportunity. That's the way I see it. And these opportunities for me are how we grow. How I grow, it's how you grow, both professionally and personally. And growth is what life is all about. Think about a tree. It's either growing or it's dying. There's no middle ground here. There's no treading water. There's no, yeah, I'm good. It's either growing or dying. End of story. I remember when I decided to take my professional growth more seriously, it wasn't a purposeful decision. It's not something that I set about to do. I didn't say, here, let's start reading more about calibration, measurement, uncertainty, statistical math. No, rather I had questions that the people around me couldn't answer. Or if they could, I wasn't happy with their response. So I did my homework. I stopped taking other people's word for granted. And that's kind of a bad feeling at first. But because I guess it's like not trusting people, but in time you learn that there are facts, and people like to kind of sometimes use those facts, sometimes without having the whole picture in mind. Calibration, measurement, metrology, this whole thing that we talk about here on a daily basis, is an evolving science. Like all science, it changes over time. What was true last week is not necessarily true today. Pluto was a planet. Now it's not. We learn and we grow. That's how science works. It's this constant evolution of things that we're figuring out as we go. Since you're a listener to the podcast or the video cast, whichever the case may be, I know you want to learn. And that's why what we're all about here. If you're new to the podcast, you should consider these words pretty closely. The way to grow, continue to grow, is to learn. So be that lifelong learner. Seek out opportunities to grow. Put yourself in situations where you don't know all the answers. If you're always putting yourself in situations where you're the smartest person in the room, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. How can you grow from there? I mean, I'm asking you, seek out the gurus and the mentors for the fields that you want to know about. Find those people that know more than you do. And you'd be amazed how fast you can learn from these folks by simple osmosis. You're just going to soak it all in. Now, if you're having trouble doing this offline, I know I do. I'd seek out folks online. Podcasts, social groups, forums, great places to grow, to enhance your knowledge, and just be more than you are today. So if I really haven't made this completely clear, I'm a lifelong learner, and I want you to be the same. I want you to do the same things. I want you to seek out those opportunities to make yourself better. I promise you, you're going to thank me for it someday. Just a few thoughts on learning. This is Kevin. Thanks for listening today. I really appreciate you. Drop by the website, leave me a note, tell me how I'm doing, leave a comment below. Either way, I very much appreciate it. www.ptguruconsulting.com. Hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you're going to continue to do so. And you know what? Peace out, y'all.